Let's start with something that might feel offensive, but is painfully true. Being a good person is often a strategy, not a virtue. We're taught from childhood that being nice, agreeable, and helpful will earn us love, protection, and success. But look around. How often do the nicest people end up exhausted, walked over, or left behind? Niccolo Machiavelli, the Renaissance political thinker often misunderstood as cruel, actually offered a brutally honest truth. In a world ruled by power and perception, striving to be good in every situation often makes you weak. Why? Because when your primary goal is to be seen as morally righteous, you become predictable, controllable, and manipulable. Think about it. If someone knows you'll always say yes, that you'll avoid conflict, that you'd rather be liked than respected, then you've already lost power in that relationship. Machiavelli didn't say, "Don't be good." He simply warned us, don't depend on goodness as your only tool. Power, influence, and survival demand flexibility, sometimes even calculated coldness. Now pause and reflect. Have you ever said yes when you wanted to say no? Have you ever bitten your tongue just to keep the peace, even when your values were violated? If so, you're not alone. You've been conditioned. Conditioned to believe that being good is the highest goal, even if it means erasing your own needs. But here's the twist. In a world where everyone plays by the same script of kindness, the one who dares to break that script holds the power. So let's take a walk into the uncomfortable. Let's see what Machiavelli really meant, and why sometimes the path to inner strength begins with stepping outside the illusion of being good. Here's the uncomfortable part of morality. Most of the time, it feels good. Too good. Being seen as kind, humble, or selfless creates a warm internal glow. People praise you. You feel accepted. You're the good guy. But what's the price of that praise? According to Machiavelli, morality can become a cage, a beautiful one, but still a cage. When your identity becomes tied to being good, you start to fear anything that might challenge that image. You avoid necessary conflict. You suppress your true desires. You apologize for taking up space. And eventually, you become invisible, not because others don't see you, but because you've trained them not to. Think of the colleague who's always agreeable, the friend who never says what they really think, the family member who sacrifices constantly without asking for anything. We admire them, but we rarely follow them, because deep down, we don't trust what's too compliant. Machiavelli argued that leaders, true leaders, must be willing to disappoint others if necessary. Why? Because progress always threatens comfort, and people would rather stay comfortable than evolve. So if your goal is growth, personal, professional, spiritual, you must be willing to let go of the need to be liked. Being moral is not the problem. Needing to be seen as moral is. Ask yourself this now. Have you ever held back the truth just to protect your nice reputation? Have you avoided setting a boundary because you were afraid they'd think you're rude? This isn't kindness. It's fear, dressed in the costume of virtue. And it's fear that keeps you small. So what do you choose? The comfort of approval or the discomfort of real power? You've been told your whole life, be nice and people will like you. But here's the dark twist. Being liked is the weakest form of power. In fact, it's a trap, one that forces you to trade authenticity for approval. Imagine this. You're constantly smiling, nodding, agreeing, softening your opinions, all in the hope that people will say, "You're such a good person." But what does that actually get you? Respect? No. Protection? Absolutely not. What it gives you is invisibility. Because when you try to please everyone, you disappear into the crowd. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He warned that a leader who tries too hard to be loved ends up being taken for granted. The more desperate you are to be liked, the easier it is for others to manipulate you. They'll use your kindness as leverage. Test it. Say no to someone who expects you to always say yes, and watch how quickly their love turns into silence or resentment. Let's flip the script. Who are the people you remember? The ones who didn't beg for your affection, right? The ones who spoke with certainty, who stood firm, even if it made them unpopular. That's because power doesn't come from being agreeable. It comes from being unshakable. Being feared doesn't mean being cruel. It means being respected enough that your boundaries are not crossed. People think twice before testing you. They weigh the consequences. That, Machiavelli says, is true influence. Not love, not popularity, but the ability to hold space and command presence. And here's a brutal truth. The world is more loyal to fear than it is to affection. We may not want to admit it, but in times of crisis, people follow strength, not kindness. The one who's willing to take decisive action, even if it ruffles feathers, becomes the pillar others lean on when things fall apart. So next time you feel that urge to please, to soften your edges just to be accepted, ask yourself, do you want to be liked, or do you want to be remembered? Because people might forget the person who made them comfortable, but they will never forget the one who made them respect themselves more. Here's the bitter pill. Not all kindness is good, and not all toughness is evil. We've been conditioned to equate being nice with being moral. But if that were true, then passivity in the face of injustice would be virtuous. Silence would be saintly. Cowardice would be a form of love. Machiavelli would call that nonsense. In his eyes, morality isn't about appearing good. It's about doing what needs to be done to protect what matters. Sometimes that means choosing between two evils, not between good and bad. Real leadership, real strength, is forged in moments where no clean option exists. Ask yourself this. If a leader lets chaos grow simply because they don't want to offend anyone, is that kindness? Or cowardice dressed in politeness? The person who dares to confront disorder, even at the cost of being called harsh or cold, might actually be the one acting in moral service. It's not about being feared for the sake of ego. It's about being respected because you're willing to take the emotional hit others avoid. You make the hard call. You bear the backlash. You carry the burden so others don't have to. That, according to Machiavelli, is the deeper form of service. He knew that when people pretend to be purely good, they often avoid responsibility. They wait for someone else to take action. But the one who dares to act, even imperfectly, shapes the world. Morality without courage is hollow. So, instead of asking, how can I be seen as a good person? Ask this. What am I willing to sacrifice to protect what is right? Because sometimes the world doesn't need another gentle smile. It needs someone who is willing to be misunderstood for doing what is necessary. In the end, the truly good are not always the ones who shine in public approval. They are the ones who stand alone, if they must, in defense of something bigger than themselves.